Hey, what's up, guys? So, with the end of the year, entering the new year, I want to do a rundown of all of the 55% tier lists, where we are at now entering 2024. So, like, top 10 LRs, 55% LRs of 2023, pretty much. So, I'm going to do all of those, but first I want to get started with the top 10 LRs. I think one of the more people pay more attention to, for sure. One of the ones that people care about more, I feel. So let's get straight into it. My only stipulations, as I always do these lists, 55% I take quite literally, which means that I only have them as 55% of the tier list. So no skill orbs in them. Like a physical unit won't have crit, a tech unit won't have additional, that kind of thing. I know a lot of people, when you make these units, and even I myself, 55% will add these things to the units, but I feel like it's just better for looking at them 55% because not everyone has the same skill orbs and not everyone can do this or do that. It just makes it a little easier to break it down if I do that. So if I'm talking about, Bulma, and I say, well, she has built-in additional, but, I'm not going to take into account her hidden potential system additional, right? Because 55%, I can't get that. Good? Cool. So, first off, we are going to start with number 10, who I feel is Trunks. I think Trunks is very good. I like him a lot. I've been using him a decent bit. I use him on pretty much most teams I'm running. He's on a lot of the top tier teams right now. I think he's really good. I think 55% he's a bit squishy for sure. He can get hit pretty hard even after supering on some of these harder bosses, and of course AoEs right now are sort of the meta, sadly, and he definitely gets hurt a lot by those 55%. I don't usually struggle, surprisingly, to get the additional. The built-in 10% chance additional procs somewhat often for me, actually, because he's already doing so many additionals that the chance that it procs actually happens fairly consistently for me. So of course all you have to do is pray that the built-in additionals are actually supers. But yeah, I mean, all around a great unit. If you're able to get to standby, which I would consider more than at like 100% for him, because 55% fights just go a bit longer. You're going to take a little bit longer in fights because you're just not doing as much damage, or, the units might not be critting as much, or might not be doing as much additional, stuff like that. So I actually do take like his standby into account. And I think it's a crazy good mode once you enter standby. I think he's a really good unit, and I don't want his placement to sort of feel like he's not like as good. I think the top 10 are all really good. You can see right there, all these units right here are all really good units. I think that none of them are bad. Like sometimes we've done, like top 10s, and I'm like, the 10th unit, they got some flaws, but like I think that Trunks is pretty solid. Moving into number 9, I have Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta, the 8-year anniversary. They've been out for, almost a year at this point. People know they're good. Everyone knows their flaw, right? They just got to build up 55%. It's even longer to do that build up, so they're even more struggling, a little more squishy than maybe you'd want. But, they're good. Again, just like they kind of feel like just Trunks, they're just Trunks again. They're a little different, not entirely the same. But of course you have the standby, which is also really good. It's a form that you will not take damage. Even at 55%, you're not taking damage. So just like Trunks in a way, this character, as long as you're able to build them up, kind of hide them. Again, AoEs are going to do a lot of damage to them. But if you're able to kind of work with them, you can do a lot with them. So I like them a lot too. I view them very similar to Trunks. You could probably swap these two. If you really like Trunks more, if you feel like he's a little bit better, that's fine. If you really like the 8 years more, I personally like them just slightly. I edge them slightly over Trunks here. Next, I have the new EZA androids, actually. I think they're pretty good. At 55%, the most important thing for, I think, a lot of 55% units is a way to deal with the big damage. Because even at lower stats, lower HP, lower just kind of everything, you really need units who can handle it. And so the androids are that with dodge. They have built-in dodge, so you don't, because 55%, I'm not gonna be able to build any unit dodge. I can't build dodge for my units at 55%. I can't have full dodge build or whatever for units. So when a unit has built-in dodge like this, it is very good at 55%, because a lot of units at 55% just can't handle the heat of like the hardest hitting bosses. It's just not possible for them. So dodge is actually a bit more important at 55% than at a rainbow level. And so that's what these guys give you, and I think that they're really good because of that. Like that reason right there. They have a way to survive AoEs. They have a way to survive super attacks. Makes them valuable. Android 16 is a very tanky, of course. You bring him out when you want to try to tank. 55%. I mean, he tanks fairly well. Like I have no issues when I pull him out 55%. But sorry, I meant to go here. They're good. I mean, there's not much to say about them. They dodge, I think, is the main reason. They do good damage. They dodge. I like them. The team, I don't like. The team's okay right now. I'm not a big fan of the teams that you run them on, like Android 21, but they're good. No complaints. I think these bottom three you could probably mix. I think after this, the next one I'm gonna go to is on a different level. So these three are sort of all together, in my opinion. And then we're gonna move on to now kind of step up, which I'm actually going to put the Super Saiyan trio here. I think for 100%, they're more favorably looked upon. I think people have them higher for 100%. For me, I've been using them a lot, and they are good. I really do like their tanking ability. Like they can tank fairly well. 55%, they're a bit more squishy. They're going to take more damage from like AoEs and post super. They really, I don't see them surviving a lot of like the big super attacks, like even post super for me. They're not surviving a lot of them, but they still do really good damage even at 55%. I kind of see them around, like 12 million I can get, the main, and then the multiple attacks. Of course, you can't get a hidden potential system additional on this tier list, so there is no building up a little extra attack for them. But I mean, they're good. Mainly what I think holds them back is that like at 55%, units who just are kind of like damage and raw defense. I know they have built-in damage reduction of 30%, but like units who are kind of just a lot of attack and just kind of like raw defense numbers with a little bit of damage reduction just suffer a slightly bit more because you're relying on numbers, and so numbers are just not as good on 55%. Like they're not like awful compared to 100%, but like they're, everything drops a little bit. So because of that, I have them probably lower than where 100%, I feel like they're probably higher for that reason. I do think that, but they are really good. They do bring a lot of damage. Even at 55%, they will be your main damage dealer for the team. And like I said, a problem that 55% can have possibly for certain teams is that you will go through events slower just because you're not doing as much damage, right? So I think they're great for that for 55%. When I bring them, I think they're one of the fastest teams that I can get through events with. So because of that, I like them a lot. Next, number 6, I have Merzamasu. I actually think that Merzamasu is kind of downplayed right now. I feel like a lot of people aren't like some people know, like people know how good he is. But like when he first came out, I think people really liked him a lot, right? The honeymoon period. I think I overrated him when he first came out, of course. But I feel like now people kind of view him negatively. But I find like when I use him, like, he's still really good. I mean, you're talking untouchable, even at 55%, untouchable turn 1 and a pretty reliable tank turn 2. 55%, you take a bit more damage. If you take better chip damage with less health, less defense, then I can somewhat reliably get into Infinite Zamasu. Of course, I can't use that as his argument for like you're always going to get it, because I mean I've had times where I don't get it, and in that sense he can hurt you, right? Turn 5, it is possible then that he will mess you up. I mean, 55% with only 40% damage reduction, he's not slot 1 anymore. But if you're under the 70% and you get to super first, he, I would say, is reliable to tank slot 2. And so I think, again, 55% really, like, I'm looking for who can help me survive these big super attacks, because really it is, I need characters who can try to survive the big stuff, or else I'm gonna die. And he's one of the characters that can do that for me. You know, he's great for getting through Merzamasu, right? Or the Zamasu red zone, right? Because in the beginning, those AoEs are really strong, but in the beginning, he's really strong. So I kind of see him, I think, in a better light than maybe others do. I do still really think he's good. Next, I have the GT Duo. I've definitely gone up a bit more on them. I have my other list here, which we'll look at the very end, to kind of see how we've changed it. It's been 3 months since I've done that list, so there's been a little bit of changes. I think I'm a little more up on them now. I think a big problem I had with them is just at 55%, like they're really squishy. But the meta has really been shifting towards revives. Revives have really been picking up, and a revive unit is really important on your team now. Or like, is getting more important. And so because of that, like they have that invaluable ability, but I still like AoEs are the meta, and in the Ome Shenron fight, they're not, they can do it because they have time to build up and they can get a little more tanky. But like Zamasu, they get destroyed, like 55% destroyed at 55%. Even if you're supering, which at 55% for this list, you can only super 3 times with them. You can't get a 4th. So they're also building up a little slower. They're building up their damage reduction just a bit slower. If you're not good with that 70%, like I just find when I use them, if I'm not, like if they're not turn 2 and I go straight into the revive, usually they do get me killed. And I know I'm just bad talking them, and that's, of course, they're a great unit. They're top 5 for sure. Now I like, yes, they are top 5. Their revive is really good, and if you can build them up, they're really good. And they're not like, you know, these guys down here where building up takes time, right? Where you're like, I have to build up, like these guys, you know, even turn 5 after doing multiple supers with them, you know, you could still get killed. Where like these guys, turn 3, you could be good, right? Because turn 3, let's say you got your 3 supers, you only need 2, right? And if you get 24 Q, you're good. So because of that, yeah. But even after supering, they're still, I find them still to kind of get hit a little hard by supers, which, I mean, to be fair, everyone gets hit hard by supers, except for someone on the list post super. But yeah, I mean, they're still really good. Their revive, I think, is really it's bringing them up again for me. We'll see the last, but they're really good. Like, they're insane for their revive. It's just in the beginning, like AoEs can really mess them up. In a non-AoE fight, they're pretty good. They're pretty solid. They still get a little hurt at 55%, at least for me. But yeah, I'll stop blabbering on. I've talked about that before. Next, I have kind of a controversial pick last time. I have the blue duo here. I think that they just do a lot at 55%. That it's pretty invaluable for 55%. Their ability to tank slot 1 is like really good. Like it's invaluable. Their slot 1 tanking, it is very invaluable. The fact that you can dodge and guard slot 1, I think, is very, very good. Their biggest flaw though is that, you know, turn 5, if you're not under the HP threshold, you will get annihilated, right? And that's a problem I have. Usually when I'm running them, I run the strat where you float them off, like while they still have the guard. I know that kind of defeats the purpose of like being able to be a slot 1 god, right? Them holding down slot 1 so damn well. It's kind of like counterintuitive that you're gonna then throw them off rotation. But if you're able to, it helps out, because then when they come back, you can get Vegito, right? But their ability at 55%, like to be able to hold down slot 1 is just invaluable. Like it really is. They help out so much for having like they're one of the most reliable 55% tanks, in my opinion. Like they really are just invaluable for what they can do for the team. Because I view them a little more favorably than the 8 years. I know that's a fairly controversial opinion, and you know, if you think the 8 years are better, then of course it's your opinion, and I have no argument with that. They're both really good units. I just, in my time of playing the game, I found that they're doing a lot in tanking. I mean, they kind of serve almost different purposes. They're gonna be my slot 1, hold it down, everything for me, while these guys are like, give me a revive and keep me in it longer too, you know? Yeah. Okay. Next. That's where I would break. So that's where I would break another line. So 8 to 10, I would say after that, we're on a higher level to these 4. And then these 3, I think, are on an even higher level, right? I know 8 years are kind of grouped in with that higher level, but I think these 3 are just doing so much for you. And I'll just throw them down. Gohan, I think, is number 3. And then I have Orange, Piccolo, and Bulma. I personally am probably still keeping Bulma at 1. I think Orange Piccolo does a lot, though. I have no... So, like, okay, definitely Gohan, I think, is below both of them. But for them themselves, you could argue either, honestly. I think they're neck and neck completely. Like, completely. I think that I just personally like Bulma just a little bit more at 55%. Nothing against Piccolo. I mean, Piccolo will literally carry runs for you. Like, he will carry you through runs. So there's nothing against him. I'm not, in no way am I saying, like, they're neck and neck. You could put either of them. I'm not going to argue either way. First, though, Gohan. I mean, he's just, like, slot 2, 55%. Like, he is probably the tankiest slot 2 unit in the game. Like, nothing hurts him. 55%. Double-digit damage against some of the hardest-hitting bosses in the game. I mean, he's insane because of that. Like everyone knows, Future Gohan, really damn good to tank. And he does take some damage from AoEs, right? He's not, invincible. He takes... I actually haven't run him in a minute. I ran him, like, last time when I was doing the Super Saiyan Trio. It takes, like, like 150-ish a run from the AoEs from, like, Zamasu and stuff. For Omega Shenron, he could do a little bit better, provided that you are still in that 5-turn by the time you get to Omega Shenron. The problem is, like, 55%, like I said, you go a bit slower, so I've, been out of that. Like, it's not uncommon to not be there, so he could take some damage from Omega Shenron, but this guy is still, but he could still at least take an AoE, right? He does contribute to the chip damage, and that can, like, hurt you, but I think even with just the 60% that he has, right, he's still able to reliably tank the AoEs, at least moderately well. You can sometimes throw him in slot 1. He's less consistent slot 1, 55% than at Rainbow. But, I mean, I've done it before, right? And even though I take damage, I at least still survive. And that's ultimately the goal that you want. But this guy's crazy. I mean, that turn 5, when you pop the active and everything, like, he is doing insane damage, literally can't be touched, and is doing so much for you. Then next, I have Orange Piccolo again. I think this guy can just straight up carry you through events. One thing I'd like a little less, 55%, is just this form is not nearly as, like, doing damage to the boss as you would like, right? When this guy is 100%, this guy's dupes are really good because you would want to put a ton of crit or a ton of additional like that, so that he just does more damage in this form. Because when you go into this form, you want to try to just get as much damage as possible. So sadly, at 55%, you just can't do that. You do have at least crit. At the very least, you have crit. You have the 5 crit for him, and he has additional built in. So at the very least, you can do both of those, which is nice. So it does take away from that form a little bit, but of course, the point of that form that really is nice is that you completely negate them doing a super attack when you go back out of it. This guy's still incredible, even at 55%. I mean, he's very tanky. 55%, he still tanks really damn well. He can get kind of hit hard, of course, once his guard runs off in slot 1 if he's super. He can still get hit hard, but I mean, I would say it tanks pretty damn well. Like, tanky. But I think I still just edge out Bulma just slightly for myself. She's just doing a lot for your team at 55%. Like, at 55%, she herself is untouchable. Of course, when her guard runs off, she can get touched. But we're turn 7. I mean, Omega Shenron, you can see it. But there even is, like, the trick, which is once you run off, after turn 7 and you hit the next turn, you then can just do her active, right? You can pop her active, and then she has so much defense because you give her, a whole field of strength that she still would tank fairly well. So I like her a lot, supporting the entire team. What she's just doing for your team is a lot, and the fact that she's, like, really damn tanky, even 55%, she tanks really damn well. So I edge her out just slightly over Piccolo, but again, I think either of them, you could argue either above. I have no issues with that. I feel pretty good with the list. I think I have a reasonable explanation for all the units and where they're at. 55%. I think it's pretty similar to an 100% list too. I think all these characters are still in the same. It would still be an 100% list. So you'd still have all these guys here. I want to compare it to the last time I did a list right here. I still kept Bulma. Still, it's top three, still the same. Yeah, I had Merzamasu a little higher now. He's dropped a couple spots. It's just we haven't seen a lot from his team. He's just not doing a lot in terms of like he just hasn't moved a lot. He's still really good though. I still think he's underrated personally, but you know, using him more and more. I think I have the blues above him now, and I have the 8 years above him now. Super Saiyan 4 Goku has dropped off the list entirely. Sadly, the meta, it's just not really his meta right now. I know that like here, right now it's just like he just takes way too much damage early on. You just can't. Like, it's hard to get those hits. I have been able to get those hits. It's not easy. They're new now, of course, so they're on the list. They're new, so they're on the list. Then these two. I actually have the 8 years on the list now. Well, I brought them up. Yeah, I mean, I like them. I know they weren't last time. The 5 years have dropped off. They just like with all these AoEs and stuff, like they're really struggling. This guy is still good, and I think I bring him up. I think they should come up a little bit. That form I was really underrating, I think, when I had made it. I feel solid with what I got here. I got 11th place. Who would 11th place be? I mean, probably Goku could still, you could probably still say like 11th place for him. I wouldn't have an issue with that. He's still really good. If you're able to, you know, build him up, get the hits, if he doesn't get super in slot 1 right away and he can build up a little bit, like even turn 3, I think he's fairly solid. Like a fairly solid tanky unit. You could maybe argue him in the top 10, and I wouldn't fight it. If you could maybe even argue him as high as 8, right? In certain scenarios, I think you could do it. You could get that argument. So here it is. I'll sit on this for a little bit so people who skip to the end to see, you know, what it looks like. This is what it looks like. Go through it, see the explanation if you're curious. Yeah, I'm gonna do all of these. I'm going to go through every one, you know, TUR, Easy ATUR, and what else am I missing? Dokkan Fest. I'm not gonna break it down between like Dokkan Fest and stuff like that. I mean, Dokkan Fest TUR, Dokkan Fest Easy ATUR, that stuff. If you guys want to see like a top 10 overall units, I can do that too. It's a little harder to do, but if you guys really want to see that, like overall best units of 2023 entering 2024, like I could do it. I could try to do it, right? But it's a little harder when you're mixing the TURs and the LRs. So that's gonna be the list. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you soon for the next list. I hope you guys have a good one. Peace out.